right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show with a little 49er video as we update you on what's going on the coaching front for the Niners. And, of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out, and they do run out. So go say hi to Damon and Mary. Get some brisket chili. Tell them that Krug sent you. And this video is also brought to you by Mancini's Sleep World. Mancini's Sleep World is a proud sponsor of the Krug Show. They offer a 120-night guarantee with a range of brands and price points. With Mancini's, you get free next-day delivery. I'm loving my Mancini's bed. Click the link below or go to sleepworld.com and find a bed at Mancini's that works for you. Whether shopping online or visiting in store, use the code KRUG10 and you'll get 10% off. That's KRUEG 10, and you'll get 10% off. KRUG10, and you'll get 10% off in any of Mancini's stores or online at their website, which is sleepworld.com. All right, let's talk a little bit about the 49ers. Niners looking for a offensive coordinator, a defensive coordinator, and a special teams coach. So they're looking for a little bit of everything at this point. A little bit of everything. Why don't we start with the offensive coordinator? So 49ers would like to hire Clay Kubiak, and Kyle Shanahan already indicated that the Niners are planning on hiring Clay Kubiak as their offensive coordinator. But they didn't satisfy the Rooney Rule, which states that you have to interview 2 minority candidates for, any head coaching position, any offensive or defensive coordinator position. And the Niners hadn't done that. So the Niners today have put their Clay Kubiak offensive coordinator decision on hold, at least temporarily. And today they interviewed Noah Pauley for their offensive coordinator position. Pauley is currently the pass game coordinator at Iowa State. But he wasn't there when Brock was there. So it wasn't like, they're thinking about hiring somebody that, that Brock likes. But who knows? I mean, I don't know enough about Noah Pauley to say how good is his candidacy, how good of a coach is he. He was with Trey Lance at North Dakota State. But he was at Iowa State, and he's coming from Iowa State, but he wasn't there when Brock was there. So Noah Pauley is an interesting name, and his name has been floated out. He coached wide receivers at Iowa State in 2024. He became the passing game coordinator in addition to coaching wide receivers. Before he came to Iowa State, he coached wide receivers for North Dakota State. And in his first season at Iowa State, he helped the Cyclones wide receivers to one of the most productive seasons in recent history. Jalen Noel had 7 touchdowns. Jaden Higgins had 6. So they combined for 13 touchdown receptions, the most by a pair of Cyclone receivers going back. You'd have to go back to 2018, the last time they had that kind of production from a wide receiver duo. So, and he had a good impact on Iowa State. And as a team, they earned a trip to the AutoZone Liberty Bowl. They finished the season 7-6 overall, 6-3 in the Big 12. It was the biggest conference improvement among all the Power 5 teams. Then prior to that, he was at North Dakota State from 2019 through 2022, helped leading the Bison to 2 Missouri Valley football conference championships and 2 NCAA Division I FCS national championships. And he coached Christian Watson, the Green Bay Packers' outstanding young receiver, when he was at North Dakota State. And Watson obviously became an FCS All-American under Pauley and a 3-time All-Conference selection at North Dakota State. So, it's interesting to to see exactly what kind of coach this guy is. While he was at North Dakota State in the summer of 2022, he worked with the Packers to focus on wide receivers as part of the NFL's Bill Walsh Diversity Coaching Fellowship, which Walsh created. Walsh was always a huge fan for pushing minority coaches forward. And he's a big part of why we've seen the opportunities that have existed in the last 10 or 20 years for minority candidates. A lot of that's due to Bill Walsh. So Pauley's an interesting guy. He earned his bachelor's degree in criminology from Minnesota Duluth in 2012. He's got a master's degree in education from the school in 2014. He attended the 2024 American Football Coaches Association 35 and Under Coaches Leadership Institute. He's married. He has 2 daughters, and a guy who started as a student assistant in 2011 at Minnesota Duluth, then was a grad assistant in 13-14. Then he was the O coordinator, wide receiver coach there, 16, 17, and 18. Then he was at North Dakota State, 19 through 22, coaching wide receivers. He was at Iowa State, coaching wide receivers in 23 and 24. And then this year, wide receivers and pass game coordinator. So that's his full coaching experience. And now he enters the 49ers situation as a candidate for their OC position. And, we'll see. I mean, this is kind of a unique situation because, Noah Pauley's not getting this job. The job is going to Clay Kubiak. So, the Niners helped out Pauley. Pauley's helping out the Niners, and it's awkward, right? It's like, you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. And this is to get around the Rooney Rule. I mean, the Rooney Rule was established so that minority candidates would get legitimate opportunities, not this opportunity. This is not an opportunity. This was, we need to check a box, and so Noah gets something out of it because there's some prestige with getting an interview, but he's not going to get the job. And a lot of people would say the whole thing's kind of a charade. So there you go. That's the offensive coordinator situation right now. It's going to eventually go to Clay Kubiak, but right now they're interviewing Pauley, and we'll see if they have other guys that they're going to interview. Now, as far as the special teams coordinator, the Niners interviewed Jeff Modkins, who was in Detroit, and his father, Curtis, was a former Niner offensive coach. And they also interviewed Chris Banjo for the special teams coordinator position. I believe he was the assistant special teams coordinator in Denver. So Banjo and Modkins are the latest to interview for the special teams coordinator position. There was also a mention initially that possibly Nick Sorensen might be offered that special teams coordinator position. And if that's the case, I'm sure they would want to, go interview some other candidates as well, including some minority candidates, because if they're going to give the job to Sorensen, as a coordinator, one, he's only done it for a short amount of time with Jacksonville. He didn't have a lot of success there. So then the wisdom of the decision is going to be called into question. But then also it's like, well, are you abiding by the Rooney Rule? Are you circumventing the Rooney Rule? Because it looks like you're circumventing it if indeed you hand the special teams coordinator job to your failed defensive coordinator without really taking a look at other candidates. And then if you give the offensive coordinator job to, somebody on your staff before you look at any minority candidates, in some ways you could argue that the 49ers directly are, breaking the Rooney Rule mandate and the whole spirit of the thing, because they're going to hire 2 coaches off their staff, and they're really not open-minded about these other people. They're just interviewing them to check boxes. Now, some people would say, oh, that's incredibly callous, and, that's just that's a jaded way of thinking. Well, no, that's the reality. The reality is the favorite for the special teams job is Nick Sorensen, not Jeff Modkins, not Jeff Modkins, and not Chris Banjo. And the favorite for the offensive coordinator position is Clay Kubiak, not Pauley from Iowa State. So, that's reality. And then the other question is who's going to be the defensive coordinator. And Nick Wagner of ESPN.com reported today that the 49ers may have some interest in Dennis Allen. Now, a lot of talk is about Robert Saleh taking this job and coming back to the Niners. Robert Saleh will interview this week for both Jacksonville and Las Vegas's head coaching gig. And if for whatever reason he doesn't get either job, by Friday or Saturday, I would imagine there'll be definitive word on if Robert Saleh got either of those jobs, would be my guess. Maybe not. It might take into next week. But the Niners should have a pretty good indication. And then I wonder, is Robert Saleh, if he doesn't become a head coach, I think we're all assuming that head coaching job would be his first choice. So if the Raiders offer the head coaching job, he's taking it. If the Jacksonville offers the head coaching job, he's taking it. But let's just say that neither do. Then maybe Robert Saleh first choice might be the to return to the 49ers as their defensive coordinator. I don't know that, but I'm suspecting that might be the case. So you have Saleh, then you have Jeff Ulbrich, who replaced Saleh as the interim head coach in New York this year. And then there's Dennis Allen. And Dennis Allen, Kyle Shanahan is oftentimes impressed by guys who do it, players and coaches who perform well against him. He holds guys that perform well against him in higher regard. And if you don't believe me, they just signed Josh Dobbs. Why? Because he played well against them as a member of the Arizona Cardinals. And it sounds to me like they're interested in Dennis Allen. Why? Well, a couple of years ago when they had just acquired CMC and Jimmy Garoppolo was still the quarterback, Dennis Allen's Saints rolled into Levi's and the Niners scored like 13 points or 14 points. And that was with CMC. They just couldn't get anything going against Dennis Allen's defense. And so I got to think that day opened Kyle Shanahan's eyes a little bit about Dennis Allen and his capabilities as a defensive coordinator. So I think Dennis Allen's a real candidate. Nick Wagner said the Niners really like him. So I think the thinking is that the job's going to Saleh if Saleh wants it. And that's probably the case. And that Ulbrich is the second choice. But I don't know if that's the case or not. And Dennis Allen definitely has a resume that's better than Jeff Ulbrich and could probably jump Ulbrich for the job if Shanahan really felt compelled. So defensive coordinator right now, a lot of people think it's Robert Saleh's job to lose. He's interviewed with the Niners, and he's interviewing with two teams for the head coaching job. If he doesn't get that head coaching job, maybe he comes to the Niners. There's also Jeff Ulbrich. There's Dennis Allen. There's the former Pittsburgh Steeler and Alabama corner, Deshae Townsend. And there could be other people. There could be Gus Bradley. There could be Lou Anarumo. We don't know if those guys are going to be part of the mix or not. But Dennis Allen was the name of the day brought up today by Nick Wagner. And I think Dennis Allen makes a lot of sense just because his defense did shut down Kyle Shanahan's offense with CMC and Jimmy Garoppolo at Levi's just a couple of years ago. And I think that might have been an eye-opener for Shanahan. So don't discount Dennis Allen getting named as the defensive coordinator in San Francisco. So that's it right now. It's Saleh, Ulbrich, Dennis Allen, Deshae Townsend, maybe Gus Bradley, maybe a couple others in the running for the DC. For the special teams coordinator, it's Nick Sorensen, it's Jeff Modkins, it's Chris Banjo. And for the offensive coordinator position, it's hard to say exactly, but we know it's Clay Kubiak is going to get that job, but Noah Pauley also has been interviewed for that position as well. All right, you are fully caught up on the 49er coaching front. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor of the Krug Show. Thanks to Mancini's for sponsoring this video. And thanks to all of you guys for supporting the Krug Show on YouTube.